Have you ever met someone so confident, so stylish, so dramatically unimpressed by everything, that you thought, ah yes, this person is definitely French? I mean, think about it. Only the French can argue for 45 minutes about bread. Only the French can smoke a cigarette, critique your outfit, and complain about the government, all at the same time, and somehow look cool doing it. France is the only place where a waiter judges you harder than your parents ever did, strikes are scheduled more regularly than doctor appointments, and everyone drinks tiny espresso shots like they're taking medicine for boredom. But why? Why do the French walk like they own the sidewalk? Why do they look offended when you speak English? And even more offended when you speak French incorrectly? Why is a simple lunch 3 hours long? Why is every conversation a debate? Why does every child know 300 types of cheese by age 6? Today, we're solving the mystery. Why are the French the way they are? Is it history? Is it culture? Is it croissants? Is it generational trauma from Napoleon being 5'6"? He wasn't, but don't ruin the joke. Grab your beret, prepare your best, and let's dive into the beautiful chaos that is France. If you want to understand why the French act the way they do today, the confidence, the debating, the fashion, the dramatic sighing, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Because France didn't just become France. No. France evolved like a Pokemon over 1,500 years. And its first evolution stage was chaos. It begins with the fall of the Roman Empire. Europe was basically a broken iPhone at this point, glitching, confused, and barely functioning. Into this mess walked a group called the Franks. The tribe France is literally named after. These people were strong, organized, and famously stubborn. Their attitude was basically, we're right, everyone else is wrong. Sound familiar? Yes, the French personality has ancient roots. Then came the era of the super bossy French kings. For centuries, these kings wanted full control, absolute, total, unquestioned control. And the easiest way to do that was simple: make everything run through Paris. If medieval France had Wi-Fi, the password would have been Ask Paris First. This is why France became one of the most centralized nations in Europe, a place where decisions didn't just happen, they had to be approved, stamped, filed, reviewed, then stamped again. Today's legendary French bureaucracy? Yeah, that wasn't an accident. But then, something magical happened. France entered the Enlightenment, the golden age of philosophers. Suddenly, cafes weren't places to relax. They were intellectual UFC arenas. Voltaire, Rousseau, and Diderot would sit for hours arguing about society, religion, freedom, and probably which wine paired best with existential dread. This era trained the French to debate constantly. To them, disagreement isn't an insult. It's a national hobby. It's cardio. Then comes the big explosion, the French Revolution. In 1789, the French didn't write a complaint letter to the king. They removed the entire king from existence. Boom, gone. This moment permanently rewired the French brain. Ever since, protesting hasn't just been a reaction. It's a cultural instinct. Where other countries schedule meetings, the French schedule strikes, and marches and demonstrations. It's tradition, like a family recipe, but louder. By the 1800s, France decided it wanted to be fabulous. Paris transformed into the world's center of fashion, art, architecture, cuisine, luxury, and everything stylish. This era created the French reputation for taste, not the food kind, the judgment kind. They invented elegance. And now, everything else feels like a downgrade. That slightly disappointed look the French sometimes have? Don't take it personally. They just live in a country where the bar for beauty is unrealistically high. Put all of this together: the stubborn ancient tribes, the centralized royal power, the caffeine-fueled philosophers, the revolution that deleted the king, and 2 centuries of cultural dominance, and suddenly the modern French personality makes perfect sense. Confident, expressive, stylish, skeptical, passionate, and always ready to argue. Welcome to the origins of France. So, now that France has survived invasions, invented protesting as a sport, and dramatically removed their king, what do they do next? Simple. They decide to become fabulous. Because while other countries were busy fighting wars, industrializing or inventing practical things like electricity, France said, "No, we are going to focus on the important things, like beauty, fashion, and looking mysterious in cafes," and thus Paris transformed. In the 1800s, Napoleon III hired a guy named Baron Haussmann to redesign Paris. And this man basically said, "All right, let's make every street beautiful. Uniform buildings, infinite balconies, giant boulevards, zero mistakes. If a building is ugly, we delete it." And he did. The result? A city so photogenic that even trash bags look artistic at sunset. This is why the French walk around like they're in a perfume commercial, because the entire city looks like one. Then came the fashion explosion. Coco Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Yves Saint Laurent. Names that sound like luxury passwords. Meanwhile, in other countries, people are wearing practical clothes. In France, people are wearing attitudes. A French outfit is never accidental. Even their casual look is a perfectly calculated arrangement of effortless chic. And yes, the French absolutely judge your outfit. They can spot bad fashion from 300 meters away, like a hawk detecting fear. Here's the truth. France spent centuries associating power with beauty. Kings built palaces. Aristocrats built salons. Artists built reputations. Writers built drama. Chefs built snacks that required 3 hours to prepare. And slowly, something happened. In France, beauty became a necessity. Not a luxury. Not a hobby. A necessity. This is why. A French meal must look pretty. A French home must feel aesthetic. A French street must be charming. And a French person must appear like they belong in a Renaissance painting. It's not vanity. It's cultural tradition. Okay, maybe it's a little vanity. And this is my favorite part. French people don't walk. They glide. Shoulders back. Chin slightly up. A face that says, "I have seen beauty. You cannot hurt me." Why? Because when you grow up in a place where the streets are symmetrical, the architecture is elegant, the pastries are perfect, and your ancestors invented the concept of looking good, you walk with confidence. Almost too much confidence. It's not arrogance. It's geography. Because when your daily walk looks like a postcard, your attitude adjusts automatically. Some countries teach math. Some teach science. France teaches how to appreciate a sunset while holding a baguette. Painting, poetry, cinema, design, perfume, romance, aesthetic philosophy. They turned life itself into an art form, which is why even when they're complaining, they do it beautifully. But if there's one place where French artistry reaches its final glorious evolution, it's the dining table. Welcome to French food culture, a universe where lunch lasts 3 hours, cheese has more varieties than Pokemon, and wine is basically considered emotional support water. The French relationship with food isn't normal, it's basically a religion. While most countries eat to live, the French very confidently live to eat. This is why lunch in France somehow lasts 3 hours. What other people call a quick meal, the French turn into a full ceremony. A starter, a main, wine, conversation, a tiny existential crisis, dessert, coffee, and maybe more wine just to make sure time has lost all meaning. And then there's the cheese. French children can identify brie, camembert, and roquefort before they can do basic math, because in France, cheese isn't food, it's heritage. The same logic applies to wine. To the French, wine isn't alcohol, it's basically hydration with personality. They'll tell you it's good for your health, and honestly, their confidence alone makes it believable. And the origin of all this? Blame the kings. French royal kitchens created the entire culture of refined meals, sauces, pastries, and dramatic presentations. Their chefs elevated cooking into an art form, and the country never came back down. That's why, even today, food in France feels sacred. Part identity, part tradition, part national sport, and always a reminder that life should be enjoyed slowly, beautifully, and preferably with cheese. And once you understand that the French can turn eating into a masterpiece, it makes perfect sense that they turn talking into a battlefield. Welcome to the next great French tradition, arguing. In France, every conversation is a debate, not because they're angry, no. It's because the Enlightenment trained an entire nation to question everything. Voltaire didn't spend his life writing sharp opinions so people could nod politely. He built a culture where challenging ideas is a sign of intelligence. and affection. That's why French people interrupt you constantly. It's not rude, it's enthusiasm. It means, I like you enough to disagree with you. And if two French people sound like they're about to start a war, don't worry. They're probably agreeing. Loudly, dramatically, passionately. Debating is how they bond. Where other countries exchange pleasantries, the French exchange arguments, and somehow leave the conversation feeling closer. And once you realize that arguing is basically a national love language, the next part suddenly makes perfect sense. The French don't just debate at the table, they debate in the streets. Welcome to France's other great hobby, strikes, protests, and the art of complaining. Modern France inherited the same revolutionary DNA that once deleted a king. So today, protesting isn't a political action, it's a cultural reflex. Other countries write emails. The French block highways. Other workers request meetings. French workers launch nationwide strikes because the coffee machine changed brands. And yes, they complain loudly about everything. The government, the weather, bread that's 2 minutes too old, trains that are 1 minute too late. But here's the secret. Complaining in France is a form of caring. It means people believe things can be improved. It means they're invested. It means they're alive. In France, a complaint is not negativity. It's patriotism with extra volume. And if you think that passion stays in protests, wait until you hear the language behind it all. Because the French don't just speak, they perform. Welcome to the linguistic magic that made an entire nation dramatic. French sounds poetic even when people are arguing about garbage bins. The rhythm, the vowels, the musical flow, everything feels like it was designed for theater. This is why French people correct your pronunciation instantly. Not because they want to embarrass you, but because to them, every syllable deserves respect. They're not judging you. They're protecting the beauty of the language, like guardians of a very dramatic museum. And this is why English speakers often feel judged in France. You say one word slightly wrong and suddenly the French look at you like you confessed to a crime. But really they're thinking, no, you must say it beautifully. Because in French, even the simplest sentence can sound like a declaration, a poem, or a breakup letter. Everything just sounds more dramatic in French. Ordering coffee, asking for directions, apologizing, even saying I'm tired. It's not the words. It's the style. It's the language. It's France. And this dramatic energy didn't stay in the dictionary. It leaked into everyday life, shaping the version of France we see today. Confident, stylish, and moving at the speed of absolutely not in a hurry. Welcome to modern France, where people walk slowly but look important doing it. The French aren't rushing because rushing is for emergencies and bad fashion choices. Instead, they glide, they stroll, they float across sidewalks like the world is their runway and the rest of us are merely background characters. Cafe culture only amplifies this energy. In France, sitting at a cafe isn't wasting time. It's a lifestyle, a performance, a social ritual. You sip espresso, watch people, judge quietly, and pretend the universe revolves around your tiny table. And somehow, it works. This is also why the French seem too cool to rush. They've mastered the art of looking unbothered. Late? Doesn't matter. Busy? They'll get to it. Stress? They'll sigh dramatically and then ignore it. And of course, there's the signature French expression, the unimpressive face, the face that says, I have seen better, I deserve better, I am better. It's not meant to insult you. It's simply the national resting face, refined over centuries of elegance, philosophy, and disappointment in everyone else's croissant quality. This is modern France, confident, stylish, effortlessly dramatic, and never, ever in a rush.